Business Takeout presents The Healthy Entrepreneur with Maxine Choy.
Stephanie, welcome. Welcome everyone to the Healthy Entrepreneur Show. My name is Maxine Choy and I'm your host. I am a health and nutrition coach and I work with individuals to help them achieve attainable health and fitness goals. If you'd like to book a consult with me, you can check me out on my website, livewellwithmaxine.com. And I do have a special guest tonight. Her name is Stephanie Ostrom. And Stephanie is a family law lawyer at Elm Law, which is located in Whitby. And we're going to be talking about the divorce, navigating the divorce process, and also about this concept that your firm has created called Divorce Buddy. And I like it. And how I discovered Stephanie was that Divorce Buddy started to follow me on Instagram, and I thought, who's this person? And I went on there and I saw all these cute little puppies and different posts that showed puppies, and it had like a friendly gesture, a more should I say stress-free or therapeutic, should I say, way of approaching the divorce factor, because we know that a divorce is not always fun.
Indeed.
Right?
It is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's meant to be tongue-in-cheek, yes.
Yes, that is for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about just your concept, and of course just ask a few questions about what you guys do and how you can help anybody who may need this assistance in the divorce process. But before we begin, and I'm sorry, I meant to say that Business Takeout is a nonprofit. What's that noise? We got a little.
I'm not sure.
Let's hope it's not anything. So Business Takeout is a nonprofit social enterprise, and their mission is to increase Black wealth and empower entrepreneurs. So for this show or any other show, please follow them on all platforms, on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So please follow them, and we're going to go right into the show and talk to Stephanie.
Let's do it.
Right, exactly. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been practicing law, and what you do.
Okay, so I am a family law lawyer. I have been practicing family law exclusively for my entire career, which is coming on to 10 years now.
Nice.
So that's all I do is divorce and separation. I own Elm Law with my partner, Amelia Yu. And Elm Law is a boutique firm. It only practices estate litigation and family law. Okay. And then Divorce Buddy is our sort of pet project, our outshoot, our Access to Justice initiative.
Yep.
Yeah. And that one is for limited retainers for family law. So for people who don't want to do the full lawyer ordeal, for people to access, family law help without signing up for a very long and complicated process.
Okay, so it's for people who don't really want to go through the whole process of hiring a lawyer, do all that stuff. They come to you. It's almost like having a buddy.
Exactly.
Buddy. So the concept of Divorce Buddy, what made you think of that?
Well, we were talking one night, Amelia and I, and actually our husbands, about how now in the family court system, about 50 to 80% of the litigants, the people who are in the system, are self-represented, meaning that they don't have a lawyer, right?
Yes.
So that's very different from the civil system, right? Estate litigation, which my partner practices. And so because we have so many people who are in the system but are really unable to understand what's happening, unable to effectively represent themselves, then there's a lot of wasted time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of delay, and there's a lot of miscommunication, and it really is a shame, right?
Yeah,
because people, if they have to go through the court system, they definitely don't want to be in it as any second longer than they have to, right? So we were saying, oh my goodness, it's such a shame because there are some people who can't afford to have a full retainer with a lawyer.
Absolutely.
Quite frankly, that's a lot of people, especially after the pandemic. And then there's also some people who really just don't need the level of help because they've already sorted out a bunch of stuff themselves. They just want a lawyer to help them write it up, or they know that they want to represent themselves in the system and they just need a little bit of help with, a document or with filing or something like that. So we're saying, why don't we have some sort of system where people could come and they could control the process themselves?
Yeah. You know what? I like that because oftentimes it's very intimidating. It's very daunting.
Yeah.
It's very emotional when a divorce is about to happen, and sometimes the one party might be intimidated by the whole process.
Right.
So, and then of course when they look at the fees and all the things that you have to gather, like you have to gather documents that you haven't even unearthed in so many years.
It's very true.
And everything is coming to light. You're just like, oh my goodness. And of course, if there's children involved, and of course property and all that stuff, it's just a lot. And when they think about the money that they're going to be spending on the whole litigation process or just the whole process, I can see where that could be, an issue. And I think I like that because I was reading on your website where you have like a divorce coach, which is pretty cool, and then you also have a divorce assist.
Yes.
So can you explain those two for me?
Yeah, for sure. So divorce coach is meant for people who are in the family law process, in the litigation process, but they're scared. And most people are terrified when they go to court, right?
For sure.
Because you think of this big judge who sits up on some platform and is going to yell down at everyone, right?
So isn't that the case?
I mean, it shouldn't be the case. No, it's not normally the case, but a lot of people, get really emotional or they get very nervous and then they forget to, say something or they don't tell the judge like a really key fact or something like that. So we wanted people to be able to come to us and say, okay, listen, I'm going to court, but I don't know what to say. Like what should I say? Or what should I do? Or, do I have to stand up when the judge walks in? Or, can I chew gum? Or what's going to get me kicked out of the court, right?
Or should I dress right?
Yeah, absolutely, right? So that is divorce coach, right?
Wow.
And then divorce assist is just for help with domestic contracts. So for separation agreements, but we also do co-hab agreements for people who are moving in together and also prenup agreements or marriage contracts.
Oh, you see that? So you have a divorce coach that can actually help you to prepare yourself to go into court or even documents and or things like that. I like that concept. I mean, having been through that myself and reading, when I saw Divorce Assist, I thought to myself, this is something that a lot of people could really utilize.
Yes.
To help them. I think it just lowers your stress level like right away. And I really like the concept of being able to know that you can represent yourself to a certain extent, but then you also have somebody that could help you along the way. So I like that. So thank you so much for explaining that. So I'm going to explain that the Divorce Buddy is a site for people who are navigating the separation process without lawyers. So that's not to confuse the fact that Law does provide full divorce
retainers, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if people need the whole shebang, let's call it, then yes, of course we're here, right? And so a lot of times people, call Divorce Buddy, and then maybe sometimes things go sideways, right? And then they actually need a lot more assistance, and sometimes it goes the other way as well, right? Sometimes people call us and say, hey, listen, I just need this one thing, and we say, okay, well, perfect. You don't need to pay for an hour consult if you have two questions, right? So, the thing about separation in general is that it's really a loss of control for the party, right? It's almost the ultimate loss of control. So I think that if people have agency in the process, they feel like they can control what is happening, then, it really empowers them to A, take the steps necessary to protect themselves, and B, come out of it stronger, right?
Absolutely. If anybody's watching this show, please do like and share. Share it with somebody that you know who may need this, because I do know, like I said, from my experience, being extremely intimidated by the process to the point where I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I just sat on things because I was too afraid of what I had to do. Yeah. And I wanted to just call somebody up and just say, what if I didn't do this? Or what if I did this? What's the best route to take? And what are my rights?
Yes.
Because that's so important.
Yes.
Right? Because oftentimes one person can be stronger than the other, and then they just take advantage of you, and they start doing things like, doing things, removing property and like whatever, right? So it happens.
Stealing things, stealing children.
Yes, stealing children, taking cars out of the driveway, emptying bank accounts. So, and oftentimes what I'm thinking is that because of the emotional process, the roller coaster that they're going through, they just kind of like say, I can't, I give up, I'm just going to walk away, or I'm going to let things lie, I'm not going to do nothing because I just can't handle it.
Right.
because it's just too overwhelming. So I like the fact that Divorce Buddy is here because at least it gives somebody like a foot in the ground so that they could figure out what's best for them.
Yes.
Right? And man or woman, it doesn't really matter because we're all on a different path, right? So I'm going to ask you a question. Did you find that the divorce rate increased
during the pandemic? You know what? We don't have the data on that yet, at least in Canada. I would say that here, we definitely were much busier, but we didn't feel it as much because the courts went virtual, right? And that's another reason why now people actually really need the assistance of a lawyer, because you can't go into the court anymore and ask for help, face to face, right? So everything is online. So if we had a case conference, which is a court appearance in family law, then it would be online and we would be speaking to the judge. So, if you don't know how to navigate your system, you don't know how to give the judge your documents even, then the judge is going to show up and say, well, who are you and what do you want, right? So I would say that during the pandemic, I think a lot of people, first of all, they hunkered down because no one knew what to do. And then a lot of people, when we started coming out of lockdowns, and all of a sudden there was a lot of calls and people saying, you know what? That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm done.
I only ask because, some people joke around and say, a lot of people who are in marriages are going to get sick and tired of each other or whatever, right? So I was curious. I wanted to ask the lawyers that. They said divorce rate has gone up. I'm thinking, that's not true. If anything, it brought you closer together.
I mean, for some people, it brought them closer together. I think that there's an uptick, if I had to guess, right, at what the data is going to be a couple years from now. Exactly. I would say there's probably an uptick, and we'll see if it evens out.
Exactly. Okay, so I just had to put that question out there because I just thought it was so funny. Okay, so in your opinion, why do you think most of the marriages fail? Like, just from your experience.
That's a really great question. I would say that I think that a lot of times, it's a miscommunication, and people always think that there's some sort of glamorous story like we see on, TV or movies, like someone cheated on someone and, et cetera, got caught with the nanny or something very scandalous. And that's just not the case.
No.
Most of the time, I think it's just two people, they lose contact with one another and then they become further and further apart. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you don't know this person anymore.
So are you finding that most of the people who are in that process are saying we've grown apart, or we're not communicating, or something's not being fulfilled? Is that what you're finding? Or?
Yeah, I think that, once you stop communicating, then obviously needs are not being met, right? Whatever those needs are, and everyone's needs are different. Yeah. I think then those needs are not being met, and then, you're not even able to tell the other person what it is that you're looking for, and then, we just get further and further apart again, right? So, and I also would say that now, especially like we're seeing more older adults, like quite frankly, like grandparent age, divorcing. And I think that people are just realizing now there's no stigma with divorce anymore. Yeah, no one cares, right? And so life is just too short to be unhappy. Yeah. And, people just don't want to be unhappy in a relationship.
I like that you said that because, back in the days, or even just like, there's a stigma around staying together.
Yes.
Don't get divorced because it'll look a certain way. People don't talk, and people think that you failed and things like that. So, and more people are deciding that this is not what I want. I don't want to settle with this anymore. I want to be able to live a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
And I think that, once you can make that step, like once you can decide and be mature about it.
Yes.
Right? You can actually both continue to live a fulfilling life based on maturity and based on just knowing that, we didn't work.
Yeah.
So let's be apart so that we can actually work better.
Yes, right? And I would say that there's also been a very much a focus in the court system on co-parenting, and I think that people are understanding that you can get divorced and you can actually be better parents than you were when you were together for a multitude of different reasons, and it doesn't even matter what those reasons are, right? Yeah. But there is much more of a focus on co-parenting and making sure that it used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago that people separated and mom got the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And dad maybe got to see them once a month or something, and that's just not the case anymore, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, co-parenting it's extremely important because I think these days the children have an advantage
Mhm.
when there's a divorce and a separation because they have daddy's temperament and mommy's,
Yeah.
and they tend to just use up whatever they can. And they try to use each other for whatever. Right? They can actually do that.
Yeah.
Because, so when you co-parent and you do it where you're both involved with the children,
Yeah.
it definitely makes it a lot less stressful for you and the kids.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So yeah, very interesting. So I wrote my questions down, guys. Based on your experience, what would you say is the easiest way to resolve a divorce dispute?
So when people have an initial appointment with me, I always say, it's part of my speech at the end, and I say, like, the fastest, cheapest way to get through this is going to be that the two of you are able to discuss rationally and maturely, and you come to me with terms, right? Now, before you can do that, the very best value anyone gets in terms of a separation with a lawyer is the initial consult to say, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you about my kids. I'm going to tell you about my dog. I'm going to tell you about my income. I'm going to tell you about my property, and you tell me, what am I entitled to? Because until you know what you're entitled to, you can't know to ask for it, right? So if you're entitled to $1 million and you're over there asking for $5 from your husband or your partner, then you're going to get a bad deal, right? So you have to talk to a lawyer first immediately after separation, understand that, and then you can go forward. And if the two of you can negotiate at least the major issues, then you can save so much time and money. Because a lot of times I say to people, listen, I'm not going to send a letter to the other lawyer and charge you, hundreds of dollars in legal fees because we're arguing over a $50 IKEA lamp. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You just got to buy another lamp from IKEA.
Exactly.
IKEA's great.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right, and it's resolving issues amicably, maturely, and I think also let go.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I feel that sometimes you just need to let go of all the things you're holding on to, and also, and this is from my experience, is let go of the ego to be one up on the other person, or to feel that, well, I'm not going to let that person get away with it, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to take that because I deserve it, and I've been hurt or I've been whatever. So oftentimes I think people come with a vengeance.
Yes.
And I can never understand that. Like, I can never understand why you come together in love and you leave in such hate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's the way the world turns.
It is.
It's the way the world is.
And it's hard, right? It's very
Yeah.
emotional, especially if there are kids involved, and you feel like the kids are being mistreated or something. Then your back is going to be up, right? But I always say to people too, there's no separation agreement in the world. There's no court order in the world that is going to make the other person a good person by your standards, right? The same things that annoyed you, the reason why you left him or her, whatever, them. That is, those things are still going to be annoying. That person is not going to change. They are going to be who they are, right? So you have to work with that. And the good news is you don't have to live with them anymore, right? Yes. So they can be annoying over there, and you just have to see them at baseball games.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Okay, so if someone is watching this podcast right now, what are 3 most important steps that you would tell them to take to get started?
Sure. Okay. So number 1, don't leave the house, right?
Oh.
Don't leave the house, because it's not that people always think there is a myth out there that if you leave the house and suddenly, you give up all your rights to the house. That's not true.
Okay.
But, if you leave the house, then you're not in a position for a number of different claims. So just don't leave it immediately, unless, of course, there is a possible issue with violence, in which case, obviously, safety is priority, right?
So don't leave the house.
Yes, that's number 1.
But either one of you, what if, either one, so you stay in the home?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Stay in the home and then speak to a lawyer, right? And say, wait a second, what are my rights and entitlements here? I need to know what I should be even looking for and what I should be doing right now. Actually, I really have 4, if that's okay.
That's fine. I want to hear them all.
Okay, perfect. Number 3, check your credit cards and your joint lines of credit. Make sure no one stole some money from you, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that people can't go and take, I had a horrible file a number of years ago now where someone maxed out a line of credit attached to a home. So that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by the time it was dealt with, years and years later, then, the interest on that obviously both parties are responsible for, it's astronomical, right?
Right.
And then number 4 is the kids, if you have kids, right? Then you want to make sure that we're setting up a schedule immediately that you actually like, because if you don't like it, you might be stuck with it. So it's very important to think about it at the beginning of the process.
Right.
Those are my 4 tips.
So they don't leave the house part. Why is that such a big thing?
Okay, so that's such a big thing because even though you have rights of possession to a matrimonial home if you're married, the problem is that if the two of us were married today and I left the house and you were sick of me, and then I said, well, I want this and I want this and I want this, and you say, well, why would I give you anything? I'm here in the house. I'm having a great time. I'm watching Netflix. I'm not motivated to finish this because I've already gotten what I wanted, and that was for you to be out of my hair and for me to have the house that I wanted, right? So, always in any family law dispute, there needs to be motivation on both sides. There has to be a willingness to come together and to resolve these issues, because otherwise, you're forced to go through the court system, which will, of course, it'll deal with it, but it'll be long, it'll be expensive, and it'll be stressful. So no one wants to do that.
That's interesting. Okay. So I hope you guys got those tips. Don't leave the house. Check your bank accounts, making sure that, you've got some handle on everything.
Yes.
Okay. So in your experience, what is worth fighting for and what is worth letting go?
Ooh, that's a difficult one.
And I mean, I guess, it's based on what you see people fight for. Like they fight for the cottage or the boat or whatever.
Sure.
So it's like, and then it costs them so much. There's certain things that you just need to let go. Right? But then there's certain things that you need to really fight for.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, I mean, anything that's property related, so the cottage, the boat, the car, all of that stuff, that is monetary, right? Like, so all of that can be replaced, right?
For sure.
So, I mean, obviously things are important and whether, depending on whether you're common law or whether you're married, you're going to have different entitlements, right? But at the end of the day, there's going to be a pot of money, right? And we're going to split basically a pot of money. So you can use that pot of money and go out and buy whatever it is you want, right? But the thing that is most important, I would say, is, if you have children or pets, because pets are very important to people too, then that's really where you want to focus your time and energy. That is worth fighting for, because it's very unfortunately, but we have what's called the status quo in family law. So if there's a status quo where you haven't seen those children and you're not spending time with those children, then the problem is that you're not going to be able to get that time, right? And kids grow up so quickly, you don't get that time back, unfortunately. So that's where you really have to focus your energy to make sure, and that's why it should be easier to let some of those other property claims go if it comes down to the children, right? Not to say that people should give up on their rights and entitlements. Obviously, they should pursue them. But, you have to know what's most important to you, I would say.
Yeah, you know what? I like that. Thanks for that advice, because oftentimes people are attached to the tangible things. The things. Tangible things, material things, because it involves money.
Yes.
And what I've learned or what I've observed in relationships is that everything is all about money. Right?
Yeah.
And it becomes this terrible situation where two people who were in love or had a family, they were growing, all of a sudden it's all about the money. And I think you can be so blindsided by the fact that your happiness is so much more important than for the money. Your peace of mind. Right?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Your sanity. So those are all my questions. But before we finish, what can you tell us about what, if anybody was to come to law right now, or even come and say, listen, I want to know more about what Divorce Buddy can do for me.
Sure.
What is the process that they would have to do?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So for Divorce Buddy, there's an intake process. So you can just call the hotline, or you can send an email, of course, and then someone's going to contact you and have a fulsome discussion with you, which is basically like almost like a free consult, to say, hey, listen, what's going on in your situation? I'm going to help you sort of, decide on what it is that you need, right? Because maybe you're at the very beginning of the process and you actually just want to ask how much child support would be. And maybe you're all the way at the end of the process and you literally now just need a separation agreement done, right? So we can help you sort of say, okay, this is going to be the best use of your funds, right? If we have X amount of dollars, we need to put it right here because that's the most important thing right now, and move you forward through the process.
That's really, really cool because like I said, and we said in the beginning, a lot of people are trying to do it themselves. And like you said, 80% of the population are self-represented. But sometimes they need to know a little bit more than they think they know, right?
No, for sure. I mean, the thing is, like, separation has a lot of myths around it, right? So everyone has a friend or a sister or a cousin who's gone through it.
And they would say, don't do this. Do that.
And then you hear all sorts of wild things that are just not true. So before you do that, just, consult with a lawyer. That's all I'm saying. Just one appointment, guys.
One appointment, and just give them a call, guys. So Stephanie, so we have your information up there. So if anybody wants to reach you or even law firm or even Divorce Buddy, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can go to the website or they can go to Elm Law. On Elm Law, there is an actual software attached, and you can go through and you can fill out your information. So you can skip all of that pre-stuff and it gets submitted to us, and then we'll give you a call back to schedule the appointment. We're trying to get that done on Divorce Buddy, but so many things to do, right? So it will be up there soon, and you can just email and we'll set you up with an appointment as quickly as possible. If you say it's urgent, then we'll make sure you have an appointment that day. No problems.
Awesome, Stephanie. I really do thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much. And for anyone who's watching, I would like to thank you for watching. And in the meantime, if you have, like I said, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to Stephanie. And if you need any help at all in terms of your health and well-being, you can reach out to me as well. And also don't forget to follow Business Takeout on our platform, join the group, support, and encourage. In the meantime, guys, thank you for watching and stay well. Good night.
If you enjoy our programming and want to help support Black entrepreneurship, please donate today. www.businesstakeout.com/donate.